Alright, so today I'm going to do another Alpha Bridge SMG build, but this one revolves around a few different premises. It does go down the vein of trying to be tanky, trying to survive shotguns, counter the M870 build, and while I do have some specific builds using Hunter's Faith that counter it already, published out there, people may not like that gear set, so a lot of people prefer Alpha Bridge. There's a lot more customization options, there's a lot more flexibility with the gun talents and all that different stuff. And overall, this is a build that goes down a really nice route. It uses a few specific concepts. As you can see on my main stats, I have just barely enough firearms to activate all of my firearms gun talents. Just barely over 28, 25. And that's a really good thing. But after that point, I feel like firearms drops off. Once you've activated all your gun talents, you don't need any more firearms. The scaling's not that great. You're much better served putting it into either electronics or stamina. In this case, stamina. There's going to be a couple clips in the gameplay that I show after where I do tank some shotgun shots and don't go down, so that's very nice as well. I'm going to go over all my gear. I'm using 5-piece Alpha Bridge, but that's just because I have some good rolls on the firearms side of things. That's just because I have good main stat rolls and not because that's the gear sets I would recommend. After you have 4-piece Alpha Bridge, there's no incentives to running a 5th piece. If you can get the right rolls, I would much suggest running Savage Gloves with this. I'm using the Vigorous Chest Piece, so that's integral to the build and the survivability. But Savage Gloves would boost your DPS overall and make you much more flexible in terms of PvE. So I'm going to talk about my Alpha Bridge stuff, my Vigorous Chest Piece, my guns, my talents, and my skills, and then I'll flip it to some gameplay. So first things first, I have this backpack, Alpha Bridge rucksack. It has a decent stamina roll, mid 600s is like moderately effective. What you're going to want is mid to high 700s if possible. So this would be a much better backpack to roll if I really wanted to. But I would lose some skill power, so I don't do that right now. It would boost me to the armor cap, so I can trade in between these two as I see fit. I will still have all my gun talents active, but the only trade-off is that I'll have 19,000 instead of 25,000, almost 26,000. And with booster shot, which I will be running with the Vigorous Chest Piece, you're really going to want more skill power. So currently I'm opting for this one, but if we get into a really dicey situation with some, really powerful shotgun builds that do a lot of per shot damage, and I really definitely need to be at the 75% armor cap, I'll get an extra 40,000 toughness from this, switch over, and I'll be good to go. I also have pulse critical hit damage and pulse duration on the skill attributes, which is really nice as well. So right now I'm sticking with this, but I have the flexibility. Moving on to my gloves, these are not perfect. For an SMG build, you would want this assault rifle damage to be SMG damage, but I have a fantastic firearms roll on these, which allows me to get, just barely up over the 28-25 required to activate my gun talents. Nearly a perfect roll. Support station duration, not integral to the build at all. Don't really need that, but, they'll get the job done. For the holster, I have this one here. There are some better holsters that I currently own, especially on the stamina side of things with, upwards of the mid 700 rolls. But this has 755 firearms, again, nearly maxed out, allowing me to reach 28, 25 and activate everything. And I've rolled a really decent armor roll in the major attribute slot as well. Very important to roll armor in your major attributes on your holster and your chest piece. That's one of the ways you're going to reach armor cap without having to use mods. I would actually have to use one mod in this situation, but I'm using all firearms mods to achieve just barely enough firearms to activate everything. Moving on to my pads, I have critical hit damage. I think that that's definitely what you want to roll. You could roll armor again, but I am trying to be a hybrid build. While I am prioritizing toughness, I do have a hybrid aspect in the sense that I have weapon DPS and I have some skill power, so my pulse will be effective. My gun DPS is good. I can melt down NPCs. I have great survivability. Overall, it's a very well-rounded build. Skill attributes, sticky bomb explosion radius, not at all something important that I need. I can definitely switch that out for something else. But I really like the 51% increased kill XP, especially since I drop ranks in the Dark Zone all the time because I go manhunt and I die repeatedly and I don't really care about it. So having a little bit extra kill XP is nice in my situation. Moving up to my mask, I have an Alpha Bridge mask with some skill power. Not anything huge, just barely under 5,000. Has a really great stamina roll, so I like this a lot. And in the mod slot, I have firearms with skill power. That's pretty much all of my mods right now are firearms with either critical hit chance or skill power. And all of them are firearms mods since I have most of my gear in the stamina category. First aid ally heal is nice if I'm running in a team, but this build does function from a solo play perspective. I have a lot of requests for me to do solo play things. I don't really do that. I don't see any appeal in this game from a solo play standpoint. I think that anyone that's interested should join our Facebook group and look for a squad. This game is so much better if you have a team of people you can joke with and run around with and complete content with. It's just so much better. So definitely look for a squad, but if you are, cornered into playing solo for the time being, this is a build that can work for you. So moving on to my Vigorous Chest Piece, this is probably one of the more important things aside from having the 4-piece Alpha Bridge, of course. Vigorous grants overheal to all healing abilities, so that means your skill with booster shot, your heal doesn't need to have overdose. It can have booster shot. You can get the bonus mitigation to help you counter, these bursty shotgun builds and keep you alive while still getting an overheal from it. And with the 25,000, almost 26,000 skill power, it's going to be really nice to have as well. I have some EDR on this to help me counter sticky bombs. It's nice to roll EDR on your chest piece, not 100% critical, but I would definitely suggest having it somewhere on your build because sticky bombs can be lethal. I have armor, very important to roll armor. I have some ammo capacity, that's nice. I have pulse duration, that's really good for my build as well. And then I have 2 firearms mods up in the 150 range with critical hit chance. That's going to help my build tremendously, especially because I am trying to achieve critical hit chance cap. I don't know if I'm quite there. I'll do all the math later on. I'll show you my character sheet as well for anyone interested, but that's why I have those, because SMGs benefit greatly from that. Now moving on to my weapons. The reason I have these are not optimal, but it is, close to it, and I have two certain talents that may not be, for everyone. I have Deadly, Responsive, and Predatory. Now, some people may say Predatory is not the way to go, but I think from a PvE standpoint, since there is no dedicated PvP arena, no matter where you go, there will be NPCs present. Having Predatory is not so bad. I have been self-revived off of this. Now that it's been adjusted and it is no longer 14% of enemy NPC health, it's actually 14% of your own health. It's not exactly as effective as it was. It's nowhere near as good, but it still works. I've been self-revived in PvP situations, and it was just totally fantastic, and I loved it. So I have Predatory on this. The next one I have is Sustained. So this, again, gives me some survivability. I get health back when I kill NPCs. It's an alternative healing source other than your booster shot. Other than Combat Medic if you choose to run it. I think that they pair very nicely together. Not only do you get an initial chunk of health when you kill an NPC, you also regenerate some more after that. It just helps to keep you alive and combat the blatantly overpowered, damage that the NPCs are dealing. Then I have Brutal, and then finally Vicious. Now I really like Vicious. I think it's an underrated talent, but I would actually prefer Competent. Any weapon percent damage increases are going to be phenomenal. So Vicious is nice, but I would prefer Competent. There are some better combinations. This is just what I'm choosing to run from a hybrid standpoint so that I'm effective in both PvP and PvE. Brutal and Deadly, I would say, are very important, as well as Responsive. You definitely want those 3. But outside of that, there's room for some customization. So anyone that wants to has some better combinations, feel free to post it down in the comments. There are a lot of different things and a lot of possibilities with Alpha Bridge. So that's all of my gear. Then I'm going to move on to my abilities and my talents. So for abilities, I'm actually running a mod with Scrambler. Now, a lot of shotgun builds, and I can personally attest to this because I have a very good shotgun build that I use routinely on stream. A lot of shotgun builds are going to prioritize the pulse with tactical scanner. That's going to be a huge chunk of their burst damage, and that specifically is going to have to be active on you in order to get that one shot. I know that's the case for a lot of players with my build. I need to pulse them first and then get the headshot, and then I can one-shot them. If you run the Scrambler, and they have, if you're against a squad or a solo player, however it may be, and you use this pulse, you will completely negate their maxed out skill power build's pulse, which is actually a big chunk of their damage. So running from a solo play perspective, or even just from a I want to survive perspective, run Scrambler. It's a very good thing to do. You're also going to gain some crit chance. I mean, as you can see, 11% versus 29%. Not nearly as good, but it's still something. And then also 29% critical hit damage versus 58%. It's a lot less, but it still works and it's still a chunk. A lot of people forget that. They think that the Scrambler pulse is only to negate other pulses. It's not. It still gives you a chunk of burst damage. So it is not useless in that regard at all. You're going to run Booster Shot instead of Overheal. What is not listed here, it says temporarily increases damage for the affected targets in addition to the normal healing effect. It's not listed, but it also decreases the damage that you take. Now, with the high skill power that you have, 48 versus 28, but 28,000 is still a good chunk of healing, especially since if you click it and then hover inside the radius for just a couple seconds, not even that, maybe a split second, you're going to double proc the heal. It's going to heal much more of your bar, and it's going to be just as effective as the overdose would have been if you keep that and take that into consideration and keep that in mind. So moving on to my talents, I run Triage because I'm always in a group. You can actually run Triage if you're solo as well if you want. It does still reduce skill cooldowns, especially when you use a medkit. It also procs Triage. Triage is really broken right now for a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to go into depth about that, but it's a really strong talent. I also run Critical Save. This is integral to the build if you're trying to survive shotguns, because whenever you're popping any sort of healing at all in the last health segment, you're going to gain that 40%, and you're going to negate their ability to drop you as quickly. So that's really helpful. I run Strike Back pretty much in all my builds now. I think it's extremely valuable, but you could easily switch it up for something else. If you wanted to run, some other skill other than Scrambler, even though I would advise running that, then switch to Precision maybe. That's going to allow you to pulse targets with headshots, which is where you're going to be aiming anyways, and overall is a really positive talent. and then 1 is none. I still run this even though I'm not using a shotgun because I am aiming for the head with the MP7 at all times, and the small magazine size of the MP7 means that, you know, headshots and getting a bullet back are going to be really effective. And overall, if you have a high rate of fire, it means a lot of shots in the head, even when you strafe over it, it's going to be really effective. One thing I'm going to talk on really quickly is that the MP7 right now that I'm using versus the Vector, they completely gutted the Vector. I had a lot of people ask for my opinions on SMGs, and while I don't have a dedicated list of that right now, I can tell you that the MP7, look at this right here, 9481 with 950 RPM and 20 mag size, and then 9355 with 750 RPM and 20 mag size. There is absolutely no reason to use a Vector at all versus an MP7 ever. Unless you get a perfect set of talents on your Vector, and you don't have those talents on the MP7, but at the same time, running Alpha Bridge, you're going to have all 6 talents active on both guns. So I will always be using my MP7. I have yet to find a Vector that's good again after the nerf. They totally gutted it, and you know, I would steer clear of it unless you have that perfect God roll and you're using something else other than Alpha Bridge. Just to touch on that really quickly. So now I'm going to kick it over to some gameplay. Actually, I'm going to show my character sheet really quickly because people requested that. As you can see, my base health pool is 122,000. That's very high. Allows me to survive a lot of things. My weapon damage is up at, you know, over 10,000. Critical hit chance is at 33. Once I pulse, I will not actually be capped out unless I switch to tactical scanner, which I'm not on right now. But if I switch over to tactical scanner, if you know you're not going to be encountering rogues, if you know that the rogues you do encounter aren't going to be utilizing a maxed out pulse, you can definitely switch over to that. You can meet crit cap, and overall you'll just have a much stronger build. I have high critical hit damage and I have high headshot damage. I would prefer headshot damage well over 100, but I can't really see a method of achieving that right now. And then critical hit damage is plenty fine right there. It's going to allow me to do massive critical strikes and be very valuable. I'm just going to scroll through the rest of my attributes just in case you guys want to see. I'm actually not quite armor capped with this. Again, you really want to achieve armor cap. I'm very close. You know, I'm almost at 73%. 2% is actually a big deal though. So the way to change this is just get slightly higher armor rolls on your gear. I can change that. I just need a lot of credits to reroll my vigorous chest piece and pick up that extra 100 armor, 150 armor almost, that I really need. You know, I would advise armor capping before you go into the Dark Zone, but I know that I'm not, and I've considered that and I've taken it into account, and I know how I'm going to approach the game from a standpoint of not quite being armor capped, but being almost up there. Moving on down the line, you can see the rest of my abilities and all my stat sheet points, and now I'm going to throw it over to some gameplay so you guys can see how the build functions. Okay, so like I said, the build does function from a solo play perspective, from, you know, farming PvE content. I don't ever play this game solo anymore. I'm blessed to have a large group of friends that are always online, at least one of them, so I don't really need to play solo. And I would suggest for anyone that has trouble finding a group to join our Facebook page again. A shameless plug for that. It's a really great community. You guys can definitely find a squad and complete content faster and better. Now, as you can see, I start taking huge amounts of damage and I get double marked with Sentry. But the build is tanky enough, and I do, you know, I pop my signature to stay alive, but I tanked 3 shots from a shotgun to the head. As you can see, I'm triple marked sentries. I popped booster shot. I had plenty of time to utilize my heals, and he couldn't drop me. He took me completely by surprise. He has a dedicated shotgun sentry build, and he couldn't kill me. Now, yes, now it's a 4-on-1. He gets totally bricked, and I don't know why he tried to do what he did. But, you know, he probably thought in his head, I can totally snipe this guy. He's not paying attention. He's in the back, and I have a shotgun build. Well, joke's on him. His shotgun build failed, and this build performs extremely well against players. They're going to assume that they're going to one-shot you because they won't. And if you actually pop your mitigation correctly using critical save and booster shot, utilizing ult in the proper way when you need it, you can definitely punish shotgun players for assuming that you're going to be weaker than you actually are. Now, the build also performs really well against NPCs. Like I said, when I'm killing targets, I'm proccing predatory and sustained. I have nice, healing and survivability, especially with the tanky nature of the build, and you can complete PvE content quite well. The NPCs are blatantly overpowered right now. They do a ton of damage really quickly, and if you're not prepared for it, you're going to go down. You know, from far away, they don't really have bullet drop off as far as I can see, so it doesn't matter where they are, they're still going to do a ton of damage, whether or not they're across the map or right in front of your face, regardless of the weapon they're using. But it does excel through PvE content. With a dedicated squad, it's going to be much better, like I've already said. But you can farm up, especially in lower DZs with a build like this. You'll be A-okay as long as you're popping booster shot routinely. You know, you have your pulse. You can switch over to tactical scanner. You can melt enemies fairly quickly. This isn't a build that's going to feel a huge amount of satisfaction by melting players down instantaneously. It's not like that. It's more well-rounded. I would advise it for people that are trying to get the most out of the Dark Zone in all regards and not just go in there in PvP. If you're going to go in there just to kill players, this might not be the best build for you. There are some better setups, and if you have a better setup for that, please listen in the comments below. I like the fact that the community is growing. I like the fact that people are getting information not just from me, not just from our videos and us as a community, in terms of the upper echelon, official members, but also from other people in the comments, from other people that come by, watch the video, they're passing through, they drop some information in the comments. That's really great, and I love to see it. So this guy right here, he attempted to shoot us. He was hovering on the range, outside range of our, of our fight that we had. He's dropping a shock turret and using a shotgun build, and as you can see, that was probably the best opportunity he was going to get to drop me. I got shocked right in front of him. He got 2 unhindered, shotgun blasts off. I'm triple marked again, as you can see. That confirms that he landed 3 headshots on me. Whether or not they were complete in terms of all the pellets landing, I'm not sure, but he failed to kill me yet again. And this build fully countered and punished his because he assumed that he would be able to drop me, and I used my damage mitigation correctly and he was not able to do that. So that's very effective. There's a lot more of this, in terms of this single player who comes back over and over and tries to kill me, so that's going to get redundant, but also, we are going to farm up a full inventory. I'm going to cut it a little bit short. I'm not going to show the rest of this. We did, farm up the rest of the inventory, kill this same guy a couple more times when he came back, specifically gunning for me, it looks like, and trying to kill me, and failed to do so every single time. But, I'm not going to show that entire process because it does drag on quite a bit, and I am trying to cut down on the length of the videos a little bit. That being said, I will try and pack in as much information as possible. I'm definitely not going to take away any of the positive, helpful things that I try and say, but I will try and cut down on the meaningless things like when I babble on too long. Now, excuse me, I'm going to do some announcements really quickly. We're about to launch another t-shirt. I know I said I was going to do these only for special occasions, but we have a fantastic design, brought to us by Brian on the Facebook page. There's going to be a link to his Instagram down in the description, or his Instagram name is going to be listed actually. And definitely check out his stuff. He's been helping us out a lot from the design and artistic standpoint, side of things. And also the Patreon page is going great. A really easy way to get featured in the credits that are about to pop up is to support us on the Patreon page. Nothing will ever be required, but we definitely appreciate it. And it's all going to go towards making the stream better, the channel better equipment, and just more awesome content all around. Check out the Facebook community. I can't plug it enough. It's going great. It's a great place for people to squad up, get build advice. We have some awesome moderators. We keep it really clean. A lot of people have actually contacted me and said, wow, I've joined some division groups where every other thing that people say is get good, scrub. That's not how it is in our Facebook community. We make sure that people are offering constructive, helpful advice, or they're not saying anything at all. And we like that positive, civil, respectful discussion where everybody gets better at the game. We're all about it. So thank you everyone for watching. That's going to be about it. Check out all the links in the description. There's a few more that are relevant as well. And as always, guys, have a nice day.